Welcome to Ellen Ruth Soap. I'm Ellen, and today we are going to use the whipped soap base that we made last week. And if you didn't see that, I will leave a link for that video down below. Today we're going to take that soap base and make 3 different whipped soap recipes. I've got a sugar recipe, a salt scrub recipe, and an oatmeal recipe, and they are luxurious. I am so happy with how these turned out. And of course, I will have all of the recipes written down below in the description box. And if you haven't found the description box yet, it is the highlighted word more if you're on a computer. And if you are on a mobile device, I believe it's still the more sign. Click around. You want to find that box. It's got all the links for equipment and ingredients I'm using and the recipes. So find the description box because all the information's in there. But we're going to have some fun today and make some luxurious whipped soaps. And we are back with all of our ingredients that we're going to be using today, and I'm so excited to do this. So we've got 3 different styles of whip soap we're going to make today, and one is a coffee soap, one is a lime margarita, one is a oatmeal milk and honey sort of a deal, only I don't have an oatmeal milk and honey scent. So we'll talk more about the fragrances and everything. But let's talk about the game plan first. These bowls aren't big enough. This is going to whip up. This will probably double in volume. So I pulled out my trusty 6-quart mixing bowl, and today I'm going to be hand mixing. You could obviously and quite easily use a stand mixer, and I do have a great one that I got from Amazon, but I just wanted to use my hand mixer today. I just felt like getting in there and doing it by hand. So this works great also. So got my big bowl, got my mixer. I have piping bags because that's how I'm going to get this down into the jars that we're using, which are 8-ounce jars. And I just love, this will not hold 8 ounces of product. Once we incorporate air in here, these will be lighter. So I'll weigh it out when we get to that point. But these are the size I love because you can still reach your fingers down in, scoop out what you need from the product, and they're easy to label. So this is the jars we're using today. And I do have gloves here, just as a disclaimer. I'm not going to be wearing gloves today because these are all for friends and family. If you are selling your product, wear your gloves. There, those were sitting there, so that's that. So let me get into the ingredients we're going to use today. For my coffee and cream, sweet coffee and cream, I want this to be like a frothy frappuccino, one of those like just ridiculously high caloric coffees you get at coffee shops. I don't drink them. Love the smell, love the look of them. And so the fragrance we're going to use is glazed donuts. This was from Be Scented. Jen from Be Scented has switched companies. She is now, I think it's called Mountain Peak Fragrance. I'll leave a link for her, but I don't even know if they carry fragrance anymore, but I have them, so I'm going to use them. So that's the one, glazed donuts. It smells sweet and it's just luscious bakery. We're going to use sugar for an exfoliant. This is a natural cane sugar. I love it. It's a pretty color, so it's going to lend a sort of creamy color to the whipped soap base. And then I have brewed coffee grounds are going to go in here, and I have heavy cream powder. So it's going to be coffee and cream for this one, and we'll give measurements and everything as we get into it. For this one, this is my lime margarita. This is from Wholesale Supplies Plus. This soap's great. It smells juicy. It's wonderful. I will say the disclaimer is the usage rate on this in soap is 11%. I don't like to go that high, so we're not using the full volume. You'll still get a juicy scent in here. We'll talk more about that. And for this one, I have off to the side right now, you will see them in a minute, I made some little melt and pour citrus slices to go on the top of each jar just because I have a citrus mold and I thought it sounded fun. This is the color that I used to make the citrus slices. It is lime green mojito, which I thought was perfect for this scent. Isn't that pretty? And we're going to color half of this one. So this one will have some mica color in it. And for the exfoliant on our lime margarita, of course, is going to be salt. You know, salt and margarita. So we'll talk about the measurements when we get there. And the last but not least, this one over here is going to have the fragrance white truffle raspberry. This smells so good. This one is going to have oatmeal and honey in it, but I didn't have oatmeal milk and honey fragrance, but this one hit all the notes for me. It just smells warm and sweet and good. So this one is going to have colloidal oats in there. It is going to have a little exfoliant, but it's not going to be as much exfoliant as the sugar and the salt. This is a little finer grind, but still so good for your skin if you don't have an oat allergy. And then a little bit of honey I have measured out here. I'm going to have to pop it in the microwave and soften it up just a bit, but it's going to have some honey in it. And this one has a butter or a butter and oil portion. So it's going to amp up the moisturizing benefits. What I'm using here is my kokum butter. This is from Natural Bulk Supplies, and it has beautiful skin benefits. It just feels wonderful. And I chose to use all butter for the volume here. You could do a combination of liquid and a hard butter. We'll talk about that when we get into it. And what I have here is from last week's video, the melt and pour base, I split into 3 equal portions. It's about 450 grams each. So that's the measurements today. That is the game plan we've got going on. So now I've got to choose which one I want to do first. Let's see, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let me choose one and we'll be right back. Okay, the winner for our first batch is going to be my sweet coffee and cream using the glazed donuts fragrance. And let's talk about the fragrance load for this. It's 4% in soap. So this is 4% of this volume. And here we go, which is 20 grams. Let's start. The first thing we have to do is take our soap base and whip it to a nice fluff, about double in volume. And once that's all whipped up, we'll go ahead and add our additives. So let's get this in here. What we have is 450 grams of whipped soap base. It's unfragranced, it's just straight up, and it is divine. The lather on this is so beautiful. And I will leave a link for the video with the full recipe for this base down below. Okay, and this is just as simple as I'm going to whip this starting on low and then maybe speed up to high. Again, if you have a stand mixer, use your whisk attachment on a stand mixer. And here we go. It's going to be kind of loud because of the metal bowl and the metal whisks, so I'm going to mute this and fast forward through. Maybe I'll add some music for you all, but let's get to whipping. And theoretically, it should take about 5 to 10 minutes to get it nice and fluffed. I think we're about done fluffing. That took about 5 minutes. And just so you can see, here is the volume before, and here, this is a much bigger bowl. So it's about double in size, which is what we're going for, very light and airy. Now it's time for our additives for our coffee one. So let's go ahead and dump the coffee grounds in here. This will add to the exfoliating feel and I think give it a little pretty speckly color. And this is, sorry, I forgot to mention, 60 grams of pre-brewed coffee grounds. The reason I use pre-brewed, and I've talked about this in my soap videos, I make coffee in a French press. After I'm done with my coffee, I save the grounds. I put them on parchment paper in a low temperature oven until they're completely dry. And what that does is it makes us softer. I think it softens them up a little. It doesn't have harsh edges. And then also it bleeds the color out. So this won't make like a halo color in the product. So I like to use pre-brewed grounds. Here is my heavy cream powder, and I have 20 grams of cream powder here. This is optional. You don't have to add it. I just thought it went with the theme of a sweet coffee theme. Let's add our fragrance in here. Again, 20 grams of fragrance. And then we've got sugar, a lot of sugar. I have 400 grams of sugar, almost as much as the soap fluff. I'll just add a little now. We're going to whip this up, and then I will add more as we go. But there it is. Kind of looks not very appetizing right now, but once it's all whipped, it's going to be gorgeous. And now before I give it its final whisking, I'm going to make sure I knock everything down off the sides and go across the bottom, make sure I'm not missing any little piece of this. All right, and before we do our final whipping on this, I want to talk about added preservatives. If you were selling this and you weren't sure how people are going to use it, when I give these away, I give a little sample spoon with them. So I highly suggest you don't stick your wet hands down in there to scoop it out. I suggest using a little scoop. And all that being said, if you were going to market this, you could go ahead and add another 1% of Optifen or the preservative of your choice to this, because moisture is likely to be added into this with wet fingers. The soap base already has a preservative in it, but if you want to take an extra precaution, now would be the time to add another 1% of preservative if that's your choice. I'm choosing not to, but you can if you want to. I'm just putting that out there. So looks like we got it all scraped off. Let's give this a final whisk, and then we're going to get it in a piping bag and fill up our little containers. Oh my goodness, this looks so luscious. It is perfection. I am loving. So now let me get my piping bag over and we'll talk about that. Okay, so I like to use, this came with, I don't know, one of my ninjas or something to make, just something to hold the piping bag so that I have two hands to work with. So I'm not going to use a piping tip on this. You could use a star tip. It looks really pretty, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to cut the tip of this off and pipe it that way, because the reason I'm piping is to make it less messy going in here. You could use an ice cream scoop. That would be really satisfying to do. So there's several different ways to jar it up. You could just use your spatula. But I find the piping bag keeps things nice and tidy, and I have more control over how much goes in the jar, and we'll talk about that in a second. But right now I need to fill up my piping bag. These, I think, are 16-inch piping bags. I wish I had the big ones because they can hold more. So I may have to refill this a couple of times, and that's okay. No problem with that. Let me tell you, this smells really nice. So I wanted to use a foodie scent with this coffee one just because it sounded like it really went along with it, the theme. And I do love a good foodie fragrance. I really do. Also, if you do not like fragrance, I know there's a big movement right now against fragrances, and I get it. I totally get it. Mostly they're talking about the phthalates and the parabens in fragrance. This fragrance happens to be phthalate and paraben free, but some people still don't like a synthetic fragrance, and that is totally cool. I get you. Essential oils would be wonderful in this. And you know what? You don't even have to fragrance this if you didn't want to. Unscented is cool too. I have some girlfriends that just don't want scent in anything, even essential oils. They're very sensitive. So all of that is totally cool, and it wouldn't change the recipe or the volumes if you just omit the fragrance. You're good to go. All right, I don't want to overfill this bag, so let me pull it out here. Let's pull our scale over so I can tell you how much we're getting in here in an 8-ounce jar. So funny, I'm measuring in grams, but I have an ounce jar here. So tear that out and I'll tell you how many grams we will actually fit in this jar. So I've got my scissors, and I want kind of a medium-sized hole. Nothing too big. All right, and my other pro tip here is find something with a flat end. It can be a plastic spatula, a wooden spatula, something, not sharp. You don't want to poke the bag, but it will help you. Let me get it down by hand here, but it helps get all the product pushed down in your piping bag. And so, I hate to waste a bit of this. It's so good. So there we go. Got it pushed down. Okay. I like to do a dollop in the middle, and then we'll circle around it. This to the top right here is 164 grams is what it's holding. Okay, and 164 grams is almost 6 ounces. So these 8-ounce jars hold about 6 ounces of product. I think that's wonderful. So I'm very happy with that. Let me get some more jars. I was just doing dishes and I figured we'd do a quick lather test on this sweet coffee and cream soap here. Let me scrape some off the sides. It is just, I'm so delighted with how this turned out. It started bubbling up in here and like, I need to do a lather test. I won't lather each of them. They all have the same soap base, but immediately it just makes a creamy, it's gently exfoliating with the sugar in there, not overly so, but again, if you're doing a self-tanner or something and you need to exfoliate, this would be wonderful. And the lather is decadent. I am so delighted with this. All right, I've got to go do the dishes and get ready for our next whipped soap. All right, and next up is our juicy salt scrub using my Margarita lime fragrance. So I'm going to pop the whipped base here in the bowl, and I need to unmold my little lime wedges. And I'm going to save this bowl off to the side because we're going to split this batch in two and color half of it with the lime green mica, which is a skin-safe mica. That's something you want to look out for anytime you use a mica. Make sure it's skin-safe. Not all of them are, so that's something to note. So let me push this off to the side here and pull over my little citrus mold. It's so cute. I've used this over and over again for oranges, grapefruit, lime, lemon. You know, you can put any color of citrus you want in here and it's just all good. And they come out so adorable. So each one of these jars is going to get a little mini soap in there that you can use. All right, same drill as before. I'm going to whip this up till it's about double in volume and then we'll get to our additives. All right, we've got about double the volume. It is so luscious. I love it. And now this is a very simple ingredient add. So we are going to add for our juicy salt scrub. I have 450 grams of salt, an equal portion to the soap base. So I'll add about half of that. We'll whip it in and then I'll add the other half. You could dump it all in there too if you want. The fragrance, I have 5%. It's 25 grams of this Margarita lime fragrance. That's going in there. And that is it for the additives right now. We're going to do our little soap slices on top. We're going to split this in half and color the half, but how simple is that? And it is juicy goodness. All right, that looks like perfection to me. Absolutely glorious. So now I'm just going to eyeball it. You could measure this and be all precise, but I'm going to eyeball what I think is about half over here into this container, and then we can color the other half. So I'll just kind of make a dividing line here. Not precise, but I thought this would look so pretty with two colors in the jar. And with whipped soaps, I like to go a little light to start because you can always add more color. You can't take it away. Here's my little baby spoon, mixer spoon. That is about, I'm going to call that about a quarter teaspoon, maybe an eighth to a quarter teaspoon. And let's see what that gives us. I actually think that is perfect. I love it light like that. It's actually, to me, that's the color of a margarita. I love it. Okay, so now let's talk about how we're going to get these two colors into the jar. You got a couple different options. Again, if you had an ice cream scoop, that would work great. Just plop one scoop at a time. But what I'm going to do is fill 2 bags of piping bags full of each color, and then I'm going to put them in one piping bag and snip the tip off of everything so that the two colors will come out side by side. before we get on to our next and last whip, I wanted to talk about the weight of these. The coffee one, I think I fluffed it higher. This was, again, 167 grams in the coffee one, and it's a nice full jar. This one is much denser. This was 250-ish, 260 grams. So I don't think I whipped this one up as fluffy. It is still decadent and delightful, but these two jars do not weigh the same. So I only got 3 of these jars. I got 5 of these jars. So if you whip your product up more fluffy, you'll get more jars. All right, let's get on to our last whip. Okay, last but not least, we're going to get to our Honey and Oats whipped scrub. So I've got to whip up the base, and I'm going to make sure to whip it extra fluffy because I want to get more jars than the last time. It was a little denser. Looks like double the volume. I whipped it for about 5 to 8 minutes, and I think it looks gorgeous. So we're going to go with this and start adding our additives. And I did pick out a color to go with this because I wanted it to have a honey stripe in it to represent the honey in here. So the color that I chose is Caramel Brown Butterscotch from Wholesale Supplies Plus. Isn't that pretty? It kind of looked honey color to me. So we'll do a little bit in this, and I'm going to put it in the piping bag a little different than last time. So we're going to do some experimenting. All right, let's get to our additives, and the first additive is going to be our cocoa butter. And again, this is 20 grams of butter. You can do a liquid oil, you could do a cocoa butter, shea butter, mango butter, anything you want for an oil portion, liquid or hard oil. I think the hard oil, when it cools, will lend to the structure of this also, but you could use a liquid oil if you prefer. So I've melted this down, and it's a little warm, and I'm hoping it doesn't deflate this. If it does, I'm gonna have to let it cool and then whip it back up, which is totally fine. But let's go ahead and add our cocoa butter in here. So good. All right, here is 15 grams of honey. Going to drizzle that in. Not much, but just enough to add a little sweetness and goodness. And then last but not least, I have 100 grams of colloidal oats. And what I use for colloidal oats is the Anthony's whole oat flour. It is a very fine grind. It's not quite as micro ground as a true colloidal oats, but this is what I use in replacement of colloidal oats, and it is a lot cheaper, and I love it. So unless you have an oat allergy, this is fabulous. And I'm going to go ahead and just dump it all in here. And the fragrance, our white truffle raspberry, yum, yum, yum. And the usage rate is 5%, so I'm adding 25 grams of fragrance in here. And this is all to 450 grams of the whipped soap base. That was the starting point, if I forgot to mention that. And now let's whip it all up. All right, this looks gorgeous. And now I'm going to split off for some color. So, you know, I don't know if I'm going to do quite half, but definitely a little bit here for some of that color. I'm going to try and load the bag up with the color on one side and the not colored on the other. So let's do about that much. And isn't this just the most beautiful color? I love it. Let me get my piping bag in my little stabilizing cup here and show you what my plan is. It's not going to be perfectly perfect, but we'll do it the best we can. So I'm going to take a shallow scoop and kind of do like that, and here like that, and I'll just keep loading it up. right, so before I go do all the dishes and get ready to print labels and wrap this up, I wanted to do a lather test with this one, with the butter and the honey, and let you know how it feels with the oats. And it is fabulous. I wouldn't even call this exfoliating. The oats are so gentle in here. It's creamy. It's definitely a little more buttery feeling than the one without the oil in it, and I love it, and it lathers gorgeous. This is just, love it. Fabulous. If you like a whipped soap, this, I tell you what, give this a try. It feels fabulous, and the lather is great. Big, bubbly. Oh my word. Happy, happy. All right, I've got to go do the dishes and print some labels, and we will be back to wrap this up. And we're back to talk about labels and all the good stuff. So here is the story of whipping these. If I whip it up really light and fluffy, I got 5 jars. If it's denser, I didn't whip it quite as much. I got 3 jars and a little half that's going to go straight up into my bathroom. I can't wait to use this today. But that is the difference of whipping. So if you want a denser, these weigh almost 100 grams more than these do. But so cute. I love it. I'm not mad at this for being dense. You know, when I gift these out, somebody's going to be lucky and get a lot more product in there. But man, I am so happy. And I think that putting the 2 colors in the one piping bag turned out really cute. It's different than that, but both equally cute. So many options. Man, you can have fun with this. I tell you what. And again, here are my little, I'll leave a link. I got these from Amazon. They're just little sample spoons, and these are great. Anytime I give a lotion or a scrub that's in one of these jars, I give it with one of these little spoons so that you can scoop it out if you don't want to cross-contaminate and stick your fingers in there. If you do, that's cool too. But I think these are a great idea, especially if you're marketing, to give one of these out anytime you have something in a pot to use. So all that being said, let me talk about the labels here. I have, I named this one Honey Butter and Oats, and I named this one Sweet Coffee and Cream. I printed these out at home using the Maestro Label Designer from onlinelabels.com, and I bought the template on Etsy. So if you go on Etsy and type in lotion labels, soap labels, there are so many beautiful labels to choose from, and they have just, you know, directions how to use it. So I'm not even going to try and explain all that to you, but these are the labels that I am using. So let me get my little jar holder here, my high-tech jar holder, which are my spatulas. If you've been with me for any amount of time, you know this is how I get my labels on a round jar so it doesn't roll around the table and I'm not chasing it around, which, by the way, look how beautiful and thick this is. Gorgeous. All right, let me grab a lid and get this lidded up. Nice and tight. And if I was going to market these, I would probably shrink brand the top, but I am not marketing these, so I'm not going to shrink band, but just a word. And when I do use a shrink band, I get them from Wholesale Supplies Plus, and they have many different sizes, and they will tell you on the description what size jar it's appropriate for, so you can go do your research over there. But I'm not going to shrink band these today. Right now, I'm just going to get this label on. Oh my goodness, these were so fun to make. I hope you enjoyed watching today's video, and I hope you give whipped soap a try. It is wonderful. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.